Welcome to Her Life Unscripted podcast, inspiring burnt out, stressed out, and stretched thin women to embrace the unscriptedness of life. Hosted by Anna Osborne.
Hello, ladies, and welcome to Her Life Unscripted, episode 55. I am your host, Anna Osborne, and I'm just delighted to be here with you on this beautiful May morning. It is actually in real time my baby sister's birthday, and I just want to take a moment and just give her the warmest of birthday wishes. She is a remarkable woman. She's somebody who actually I should have come on the podcast so you guys can get to know her a little bit through her own story. But she is just a tremendous human being, and I am proud to be her big sister, and I'm just proud of who she is in this world. And I think that given our series this month about creating soft landings, one of those is obviously through our relationships, having relationships that sustain us and fulfill us, and that's definitely the relationship I have with both of my sisters. And so I would love to wish a happy birthday to my baby sister today. She's just the coolest. And for those of you guys that know her, I know we are all better people for her being in this world. So that is my first thing on my agenda. Second, I am proud to announce that we are almost getting close to running out of room for our Shine Retreat for Women at the end of September, beginning of October this year. And I want to encourage all of you that are still interested and kind of tossing around the idea of signing up to please do so, because we have some amazing, amazing things planned for that weekend. It is going to be restorative. It's going to be connective. It's going to be fun. And it's just going to be this amazing time for women to come together and just build each other up. And I think that is a beautiful, beautiful thing that we can do in this world. So if you are at all interested, but you feel like you've got a few questions, feel free to email Mari or myself to info@shineretreatforwomen.com. Or if you are ready to go and you want to be there, we would love to have you. You can go ahead and register at shineretreatforwomen.com. So that's kind of my public service announcement about where we are in terms of filling up slots for that retreat in September. But yeah, we are in the middle of this amazing series talking about how we create soft landings in our lives. And I had the great pleasure of interviewing Remya Warrior a couple months ago, and I just knew that I wanted to save her interview for this series because she so speaks about creating that soft landing, and I knew it was going to be absolutely fantastic. So I'm excited to be able to share her interview with all of you. But before I do that, I do want to introduce her so that you guys can learn a little bit more about her before you start hearing her story. Remya Warrior has her master's degree and over 15 years of experience in the interior design field. She really believes that not only is she an avid cook who enjoys cooking for her friends and family, but really believes that the kitchen is the heart of her home, and that really led her to specializing in kitchen design. She talks to audiences of women about how to create a home that is a true reflection of you. And I loved when I had an initial conversation about her, or with her, about the importance of creating a home that loves us back, like your best friend who always has your back, and talking about, how important it is for us to feel safe inside our home. And even if we can't control the circumstances outside, which I know is a sentiment that we've been talking about over and over, especially the last few months, that we still have to create our safe haven with inside. And so Remya and I really spent some time talking about creating a sanctuary within our homes, and especially as women, giving ourselves permission to be able to do that. And you guys will hear in the interview kind of Remya's spin on that. And I just think it's a beautiful, beautiful story that she shares, and really about being able to create a sanctuary for ourselves, which truly, truly is a soft landing, a way to feel safe. And even if we can't control the circumstances going on outside of our home, we can have that soft landing place. So I'm really, really excited to share the interview with Remya. It was just so much fun. We laughed, we had a great time, and her energy is just absolutely intoxicating. And I know that all of you will enjoy it too. So without further ado, Remya Warrior. All right. Well, I am so excited to welcome Remya Warrior to our show today. We were introduced through a mutual friend, and her energy is just something that I instantly wanted to capture within an episode and get you guys introduced to her and to know more about her story and her work and the passion she has behind it. So, Remya, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and welcome to Her Life Unscripted.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Anna. I'm very excited to be here.
Yay, awesome. Well, I gave kind of a formal introduction about you and your work before we started recording, but would you like to kind of introduce yourself a little bit to the audience so they can kind of get a sense of, who you are and kind of what you're about before we kind of dive into our talk?
Sure. So I'm Remya Warrior. I grew up in India, so it was a completely different environment for me. Coming here, I think, was a huge change. And I think it was a process for me to find myself. So all my adult life, I've lived here. So for me, this is where I really bloomed. So I see myself now more of an American than an Indian. Mm-hmm. So it's been pretty cool. I have my master's in interior design, and I have been helping busy professional women create a home that they really love coming home to.
Oh, so
that
beautiful.
the home is also like embracing them.
Yes, that's such a great way of thinking about it. And as you know, this whole month we're doing this theme of being able to create soft landings in our life, whether that's through relationships or through our living space. And so when you say creating a home that embraces us, right? We coming home and we're feeling embraced. Tell the audience what you mean by that.
So I see my home as an extension of who I am. Right. So basically, when I do believe that we are all products of our environment. So when we create an environment that is an extension of us, it sort of reminds us every single day of how beautiful we are. And to me, that's how I see interior design. It's not just about creating a room that just looks pretty. It's about creating that right environment that brings out the best in us. So it's about creating a home that becomes an extension of the most beautiful part of us, just so that we can be inspired, that we can really remember who we are. And I think it is very important for us to have that safe space where we can just be ourselves, where we don't have to be bothered about trying to get others to like us or anything. But when you make your home an extension of you, people are seeing the real you. So then automatically when they come in, they're impressed and they just love it, because now they can feel who you are and your energy instead of this whole facade that you put over your face or over who you are, trying to hide who you are. Whereas here, I encourage people to really try to find who they are spiritually, emotionally, and then place that into their environment. So it has basically given a lot of women a lot more courage. And before I start out, somebody comes in and tells me, oh, I'm not really sure. People are telling me that I don't have good taste, so I'm really afraid to make these decisions. And then they have this home after that, which is a reflection of them. And they're just so proud of what they have achieved. And then you can see that in every aspect of their lives.
Yes, absolutely. Because if you think about, we don't spend as much time in our homes as we probably do our offices and other places, but it is where we return at the end of the day. And it is where we pull energy and strength from. And if our home environment is something that is a reflection of clutter, of fears, of years of, storing and stuffing away, that actually comes out. We carry that out into the world when we leave that soft landing, that haven.
That's right. Yeah. So coming back to a place where you can rest, you can unwind, you can just find, what is a sanctuary for you? That really helps you unwind and take the stress out and all that. So it makes you a better person. It makes you a better mom. It makes you a better wife, because every single thing that we have in ourselves, we do project out as well. And nowadays, Anna, a lot of us are actually working from home. So I do have a lot of clients who have come to me who work from their home. So they want to actually redo their home offices. And I think just looking at these huge environments like Google and Apple and all of them, if you look into their environments, right? So they have done it in a way because everybody now is aware of how much that environment plays a role in us. So all these big companies, they are treating their office spaces also in like such a fun way, because everybody wants to get that creativity out.
Yes. Oh, I love that idea. And it's so funny. My kids love my home office. They want to be in there sitting in the big rolly chair, doing their art projects. And just this morning, I chased them out of there. I'm like, this is mom's space. Mom has nowhere else in the house. You have toys in, cubbies in every room. Out. And so we really have, I would say, since they were little, that asking permission to go into mom's office so that right. There is, but it's funny. This morning we just got into that debate. You asked to go in and get this, and then you were in there for 20 minutes and you came out with all of this, like really, protecting that space. But the other part of that too is that every once in a while when I do a podcast recording, I'll do it out of my actual out of the house office, and they love my office. And that is actually a place that feels when I step into it, we've worked really hard to create the energy there. And so even today, when I said, I've got a podcast to record, you guys have a plan of something to do. Mom, can we do them at your office? We really like going to your office and doing them there. So they feel that energy too. And clearly my home office, they feel energy there too, that they're chasing. Yes.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And that energy affects you.
Oh yeah, tremendously, right? It's, or do you feel inspired in that space? Do you feel deserving in that space? Do you feel rejuvenated, or do you feel overwhelmed and bogged down? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this idea that you just mentioned, I want to expand on it, this idea of creating a sanctuary for ourselves, right? Which I think as women, we, and I love speaking in huge generalizations here, but, for women, I think being able to give ourselves permission to create a sanctuary for ourselves is something that, again, it's like, being kind of shoved in the corner. I'll tell a kind of brief story about that. I have two sisters, and we're all 2 years apart. And most of the time, two of us shared a room, and then one had a room by themselves. And we would always trade rooms. And so every 6 months, one sister would have a room by herself. Well, when we were probably 12, 14, 16, we couldn't share a room. Like the sibling tension was so intense. And my mom is a very creative person. She's an artist. She's just a brilliant creative person. And she always had a workroom where she's done her art, her sewing, her creativity. And so during those years, she actually forfeited her workroom and moved it to the garage so that all three of us could have a room, because it was just so much chaos. And I know during that time it was very tough for my mom, and we've spoken about it since, is that those years when she moved her creative space to the garage that was cold and poorly lit were the toughest years for her, because she didn't have that sanctuary. She didn't have that place to retreat to restore the energy as a stay-at-home mom for 3 teenagers and all those sorts of things. So I would love, thinking that story just came to mind as you were sharing, I would love if you would talk a little bit about what it's like for women, what you see change for them when they really do create a sanctuary for themselves and honor that space versus cramming in the corner in amongst, everybody else's stuff, but really creating some place for them to have that energy, that flow, that place of, of peace.
Right. So I've actually done a lot of home offices as well as a lot of kitchens. So when it comes to kitchens and when it came to huge renovations, I can tell you this beautiful story of one of my clients. She actually, unfortunately, lost her home during Sandy, which hit us in 2012. Mm-hmm. And at that time, now Nancy lived with her mom, Connie, who was around 90. No, she just turned 90 years old, I think. And then her daughter. So this is the 3 different generations of women. All of them, one person is a teenager. Nancy was in her, I think, 40s, and her mom was in her 80s. So you can see that there's a huge disparity between the ages, mm-hmm. right, and how they think. So this was actually her mom's house. But because of Sandy, she was displaced and she had to live in this facility. So I never really got to meet her. Mm. So Nancy was making all these decisions, and Connie is like, oh my God, you don't have good taste. And her friends kept saying that to Nancy, and her sister and her brother, and everybody kept saying that to Nancy, saying that, oh my God, you don't have good taste. So what actually came from that was when we were going to pick stuff up, right? For let's say if I'm showing her out of hundreds and 500, if you Google one tile, you will probably have like 500,000 tiles that comes up. So how can you even decide on it? But even when I was giving her like 2 or 3 tiles to select, because I knew, okay, these 3 tiles, you cannot make a mistake. Even at that point, I could see that she was like really shaky when she had to select even between like 2 or 3 tiles, because at that point, this is what she has been told all the time, right? And then once we selected and everything, she's like, okay, I hope I'm making the right decision. I'm like, no, don't worry, Nancy, you will not go wrong. Trust me.
Right.
So after the whole thing, this was my HGTV moment, if you will.
I love it.
Right?
I love it.
So, yeah. So now after the whole thing, it probably took us like around a year to do that entire renovation. Now, after the whole thing, her mom was coming in to see it for the first time. And I had gone in and I had staged everything and it just looked so beautiful.
Yeah.
So mom comes in and she just goes in, she looks at it and she goes, oh my God, that is nice. And she just had this biggest smile.
Yeah.
Like she was probably there the entire time, like, and then she had to go back to the facility, but she was probably there like an hour and a half in the house. And you could see that she had just had this big smile. Now, if it was somebody like me, I would probably be jumping up and down.
Right. The smile said a lot. Right.
Exactly. Because the before picture was pretty bad. I mean, it was like literally there was nothing there. When I had initially walked into that house, we couldn't even get in through the front door. Everything was jammed, right? So we had to actually walk around and jump through the back door because the steps had also washed away.
Wow.
And going in, it was just piles of sand. And obviously we had lost electricity, but it was just piles of sand and there was just dead fish everywhere. And it was smelling. That's the before picture. That's what Nancy is walking away from. And then she comes into this beautiful, it looked luxurious. She said after that, what she told me is, Connie said, I've been to all these big, huge homes. I never, ever thought that I would have my own custom bathroom.
Yeah.
And this custom home, which just looked so open and just so beautiful. And it's right by the beach. So it sort of like had that beachy vibe, but it had that very serene vibe because they wanted to use very soft pastel colors. So it became a reflection of what she really liked, even though I had never met her.
Yes.
And then Nancy had a birthday party and her friends came over and she was telling everybody, oh, now look at this. This house is all me. Ask Remya. I chose every single thing in here. Look at how this house is. This is all me. And you guys said that I couldn't do it.
Yes, the confidence it gave her.
Beautiful. Yes. It's just beautiful how everything just turned out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think too that, creating a sanctuary for ourselves, that automatically our mind goes to, I can't afford that. That's something other people do, rather than really being able to create the energy in the space that we have and do amazing things in this moment versus, oh, no, once I can afford $1 million home, then I'll do that versus no, in your home right now, in your 1,100 square feet now, embrace that and create it to be what really helps you thrive.
Yes, absolutely. Now, we were able to achieve her dream home from whatever money we got from the government. So she could actually get everything done. But the thing is, because she actually had me on her side, she was able to get what she wanted out.
Yes.
Right? Because she doesn't know how to choose between a good product versus an okay product. So what we see everybody do is going to these big, like stores like Home Depot and Lowe's. I have nothing against them, but you go through that and then you just pick whatever you can get. And everybody's just looking at, okay, how much is this costing me or how much is that costing me? So where people make the mistake is not knowing where exactly to put their money. What is it that is going to really give you the biggest bang for your buck, right? So that's one of the things. And I love that you mentioned this because one of my messages that I keep telling everybody and like keep writing it on blogs, keep doing my video podcasting and stuff like that is that you don't have to be a millionaire to live in your dream home. So one of the things is I actually ended up buying a 1950s home. And when I got my home, it was like, so before I got my home, let me start from before I got my home,
Yes.
right? So this is the first time I just got my green card, and we were so excited because, okay, now finally we're going to have our home. And this is like the first home which we were going to buy as a couple after we got married. So it's always very exciting, right?
Yeah.
So do you remember that part in your life? Like, oh my God, okay, I'm going to buy my house.
Mm-hmm.
So then you're making all this big list of, okay, these are the things which I really want in my dream home. I want this huge, big kitchen, with
Right.
this big island with granite counters and
Right.
stainless steel appliances, right? The big chandeliers in your family room.
Oh, of course.
And like a nice and luxurious and a romantic master bedroom. Right? With a walk-in closets and
of course.
spa-like, right. So after all that, I go out and then I start looking at homes, and goodness gracious, what a harsh reality check.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, little did I know what my money was going to get me at that time.
Yes.
So I ended up investing in this 1950s Cape Cod home. And that was nothing like what I wanted. It was like complete opposite of it. But that's all we could afford at that time.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, but at least we get a home.
Yes, exactly.
So we ended up buying that home. Right. And then I started living in it, and that initial excitement of buying this home just went away.
Mm-hmm.
And then what do I see? Okay, we didn't have enough closet space. It's a 1950s home, right?
Right.
So all my jackets and everything would land on my living room sofa, and all the shoes were all over the floor. It was just a mess. And at that time, so this is another thing, like clutter basically gives that clutter is something which, I mean, your environment, if your environment is cluttered, your mind also starts getting cluttered.
Yeah.
So then I started getting into a phase of depression. So for me, my dream home in my head was a place where I could always invite people over, always have these parties where I would cook these big meals and have like a lot of people over all the time, because that's what I've been used to growing up in India. Like we always used to have people all the time over at our house. So for me, suddenly when I came here, it was like completely different, where people wouldn't just drop by for a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, my dream home in my head is not this huge mansion, but a nice little home with a picket fence and a rose garden and just like a little bungalow. That's for me was my dream home.
Yeah.
And even now, I mean, I don't feel the need to have this big, huge homes, because for me, it's about maintaining that. And it's like, oh my God, I can't even maintain what I have. So I don't want a bigger one, right?
Right.
So I don't want these big mansions. I would rather have a cozy and a warm and inviting home where when you walk in, you can feel that comfort and that love. Because that's what I think my friends, when they come home to our home, they love staying over. And that's what they tell me. They feel like, oh my God, this is just so wonderful being here.
Yeah.
So that was my dream, and that's what I achieved. So if I can achieve that with a 1950s home, anybody can.
Yes.
But it didn't happen overnight. It happened with one room at a time. And the first room happened long time ago. And I had this wonderful taste. I had a champagne taste. But then at that time, I had a beer budget. So I couldn't... Right? So I couldn't really afford much except for like maybe paint and just for a little bit. So I probably did my first bedroom that I did was probably for under $500. Mm-hmm. I actually got a painting through one of the garage sales. I paid $25 for it. That was my starting point. And then I had learned for finishing and decorative painting and stuff like that. So it's just about trying to roll up your sleeves and do something. But it's your home. When you do it, you sort of get that sense of accomplishment.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
That can really change your life.
Yeah, the sweat,
yeah, so
the
for
sweat
me,
equity.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So the first room that I finished, like I mentioned to you, it was at a very, very beer budget. It was like literally under $500. Right. I bought paint. Like brushes and those kind of stuff. And then I did a lot of decorative painting. So I used golds and yellows and just did this nice finishing technique. And then I painted a lot of wines and flowers and all that because I do freehand painting. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was about trying to, and we are just outside of that bedroom was our garden.
Oh, pretty.
So I had my rose garden.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring that in. So I painted all over and it just turned out so great. So every morning, the first thing I would do after I got up was smile.
Mm-hmm.
And that made a huge difference in our lives.
Well,
So
yes.
after that,
Yeah.
right? Because when you get up and if you can smile, if you can look around and smile and you can feel that grateful for what you have, it really starts changing your energy.
Yeah.
So that was my first experience. And again, after that, we did one room at a time. And it's taken us years, but now we really have the house we want. We really have the lifestyle, because that's what you create. You create the lifestyle that you really want to live. And that is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's so beautifully said. I mean, honestly, when you were speaking about this home with the warmth and a gathering place and meals and family and friends feeling comfortable coming over, I got chills, because that is, it is a reflection of who we are. And for some people, that is so comfortable to them, right? Of just opening their homes up. And some, they want it to be a very quiet sanctuary where it's a very private, intimate space. And so I love that speaks just kind of across the board to however we create that space. It's something that can be really, really amazing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I actually have another friend. So for her, she's the opposite of what I want, right? So she wants this like bookcases with lots of books because she loves to read and she's a writer. She's a book coach. So for her, it was about having that nook where she had that chair, a comfortable chair where she could put her legs up and read. And this nook where she has this table right next to it for putting that cup of coffee if she wanted to, and just having those books and books and books. Mm-hmm. So for each person, that the dream home or that dream space or that dream nook is a little bit different. But having that space where you can put your legs up and just rest and just be comfortable, and that sanctuary, that is something which is easy to create.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a matter of having that plan.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
And knowing exactly what to get.
Oh, it's so beautifully said. Beautifully said. Now, Remya, share with people, because I always forget to do this as we start wrapping up interviews, is share people how they can follow your work and learn about. I know that you've got a great video podcast that you do. And so can you share a little bit about how people can get in touch with you or follow your work?
Yes, absolutely. So my website is www.r as in Remya Warrior, WARRIOR, designs, DESIGNS.org. That's rwarriordesigns.org.
Perfect.
So I do blog a lot. I do try to do some videos where I share, okay, what's the right window treatment for you? I mean, couple of different things, different aspects of interior design, and how to get your personality out. Because I think that's where a lot of people have problems. Getting somebody's like personality, okay, so who are you and how would you be able to try to understand that and then get that out? So yeah, so there are a lot of ideas that I do share on my website. So please do come and check that out. And I would love to connect with everybody on Facebook as well as on LinkedIn. So do check me out. There aren't too many Remya Warriors who are interior designers in
That's
US.
Right.
So I'm sure it's going to be a little bit more easier for you to find me. And my last name, Warrior, really stands out. So It's WARRIOR. And I have heard a lot of people say, oh my God, I wish I had that last name.
I love it. I love it. That's so great. That was the first thing I thought of when I saw your last name. I'm like, that's awesome. And I'll also put those links in the show notes too, so folks can pop over to the website too. And so as we're coming kind of to a close, this idea of creating a sanctuary, any last pieces of just encouragement or support that you want to kind of offer to people, to the women listening, thinking about, allowing themselves permission to create a sanctuary within their own home? Any words that you want to kind of share with them as we wrap up?
Sure. So one thing I would say is, more than giving yourself permission, I think it's like a requirement for women.
Yes.
Because when you're happy, you become a better mom. You become a better wife. So definitely give yourself permission, but also see it as, oh my God, I really need this so that I can become a better person tomorrow, so that I can really put my best foot forward, whether it's as a mother, whether it's as somebody who is going out there working, who wants to raise themselves up in that ladder, in whichever work you're going, right? It brings out so much creativity in you. It brings out the best in you. And that's what it is. So for me, I do see it as something that really helps you with your personal development. So it's not just about just having a pretty space. It's about something that really helps you, that helps your lifestyle, that helps who you are, that helps how you show up in the world.
Yes.
Because I think that's very, very important.
Oh my goodness. So well said. I cannot thank you enough for your time today and your energy. And I'm so excited. I am going to go on your website and check out some of your blogs and things too, because I love that idea, especially when you're blending households, right? Of letting both personalities be present. So I'm excited.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yes. And that is, I think, one of the things that has not allowed people to move forward is probably that husband has a different personality, wife has a different personality, right? But that is so common. So don't let that stop you.
Yes.
But see this as your baby. So it has to reflect both the women as well as the men.
Yeah.
And I would probably say I would tilt a little bit more towards the women, because this is like our home. It is in our DNA.
Yeah.
It's something like right from the beginning of time. For us, creating that home was always a women's thing, right? So I would always like shift a little bit towards women, but at the same time, I would say, but you do need to have a little bit of that husband's personality, because he is also playing for those, right? He's paying the check, so you have to have his personality also,
right? He's
shine through.
Everybody's contributing to the family budget, so they've got, equal say. But that's funny, when we actually redid the flooring in our house this past summer. And so, we're still kind of, putting pieces together. And I came home the other day with 2 mirrors that I wanted to hang kind of in this new fireplace that we created. And when I bought them, I bought them and brought them home and said, honey, which ones do you like better? And luckily he chose the one that I loved. And so then I went back to the store to return the other one. And she said, oh, did this just not work out? And I said, oh no, I bought 2, one that I really wanted and one that I thought was like an okay second option, just so that, he had an opinion. And luckily he liked the one I liked, and it all ended smoothly, but it doesn't always end like that. So yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time and sharing of your passion, your expertise. I just can't wait to share this interview and have everybody hear about creating a sanctuary for themselves.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was a pure pleasure.
Awesome. Wasn't that such a fantastic interview? I absolutely just love her energy and her expertise, but just the way that she connects having a sanctuary as part of kind of our right as women, and that we need to have that place to retreat to in order to fill up. I love that she talks about it. It's not giving ourselves permission to have that sanctuary. It's a requirement in order for us to be the best moms, wives, sisters, partners, friends. We have to have that sanctuary. And so it's not just you need the permission, it's a requirement. And I love that she says that with such definitiveness, because I love that she corrected me on it and that it's even more true. So that was just fantastic. And so one thing I was thinking about as we were kind of talking about, merging property and merging households and tastes and all those sorts of things, it actually made me remember this funny story from my wedding, which I have to share because I know some of you will actually really appreciate it. So my husband and I got married. We actually got married in May. Our 9th wedding anniversary was just a couple days ago. And so when we got married, we kind of wrote our own vows. We got some, I kind of created our vows, and we worked on them together. We got some ideas from different places. He obviously had input and things like that too. So we'd kind of written them beforehand. But I remember during our wedding ceremony, one of our vows was something to the effect of, everything that I have and everything that I am is yours, which is beautiful, right? Because it's this great merging of two people into one. But what's so funny is that my husband, he's an avid fisherman. He loves being outdoors. He likes to hunt. Like he grew up in North Idaho. Like he likes to be outside. And so when we first met, I swear he had one of the Billy the basses like sings to you, and just some other crazy things. And I remember when we first met, I was thinking like, okay, it's going to be interesting, us kind of merging our tastes. And he actually has really good taste, but there was also lots of his hunter fisherman decorating that was going on when we first met. And granted, he was living with other guys. And so anyways, I remember during our vows, he said the vow of, or I said, everything that I have and everything that I am is yours. And I remember when he said that, I just started laughing, and not like uncontrollably, but I just started laughing because I remember thinking like, I don't want any of your stuff. I don't want Billy Badmouth Bass on our wall. And it was funny because he kind of knew what I meant. And since then, we have found a great way to complement each other's styles and for me to create space for his personality and him to create space for mine. But just thinking about our wedding anniversary being last week of 9 years of being married and 12 years of being together. But I was thinking about that during listening back to Remya and I's interview about that vow and my head going, I don't want any of your junk. I don't want your 8,000 baseball hats. But you know what? I have found wonderful places for those baseball hats. They are part of my husband's history and I love those things about him. So anyway, it's just a funny story about blending styles. Anyways, I digress. But one of the things that I think I really pulled away from the interview was not only this idea of creating a sanctuary, but just this idea of it's not giving ourselves permission to create that sanctuary. It's a requirement. And what I have learned so much through this podcasting journey of speaking to so many women is that they do put themselves last on the list. Like that's a universal truth. And I feel like we keep repeating it and yet it keeps being true. So at some point we have to keep repeating it until it stops being true. But with that being said, I love this idea of no, it's not permission to do these things. It's a requirement. In order for us to be the women we want to be in the world, we do have to have a requirement of having a place of peace and safety to go, to retreat to fuel back up so that we can be all the things that we demand of ourselves in the world. So I just love how Remya shared about that. And I loved just her thoughts on it. So I will include her website so that you guys can check it out. It's just got a wealth of information and she does a video podcast on a regular basis, I think 1 to 2 times a month. And it's just really, really great information. So I encourage you guys to check out her website. She did share it in the podcast episode and I will also make sure that I link it in the show notes, but it's rwarriordesigns.org. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I'm excited that for those of you that have registered for the Shine Retreat, I cannot wait to meet you in person. And for those of you that are on the edge, we want to give you that little push to just go ahead and register. It's an amazing thing for you to do to yourself. It's a requirement, right? To create that sanctuary of relationships with other women. So thank you so much. And I encourage you guys to reach out via the SpeakPipe app or always send an email to Anna@herlifeunscripted.com. I love talking with you guys today and I'm so excited to share Remya and her work. So I look forward to talking to you all soon. Thank you for letting me into your worlds, into your hearts. It's an absolute honor. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Want to learn about the latest retreats, workshops, and speaking events hosted by Anna? Head over to herlifeunscripted.com to get in on all the juicy details. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast so we can continue to grow our amazing audience. Lastly, be sure and send in your voice feedback via the SpeakPipe app or to Anna@herlifeunscripted.com. We can't wait to hear from you.